At The Print, we aim to provide you with the finest journalism, both in form of text stories as well as videos. But we also believe that good journalism and maintaining such standard of journalism requires viewers like you and readers like you to pay for it. So do log on to our website, theprint.in. There are links given for you whether you live in India or overseas. Subscribe to The Print, pay just a little bit and subscribe to The Print. In today's episode of Government Matters, Abantika Ghosh is with me to help us understand what the findings of the WHO's solidarity trial, a multi-nation solidarity trial on drugs like remdesivir, hydroxychloroquine tells us. Essentially, they have said that these drugs are not effective on COVID. More importantly, with these findings, what is India's position on these drugs and what now going forward? So do start sending in your questions. Abantika, so let's first understand what this solidarity trial was all about and what kind of findings have they thrown up.
The solidarity trial, it started sometime in March when WHO expert group had zeroed in on some of these therapies that they thought should be examined to see if they are efficacious in treating COVID. So from March, the trial was, it's a multi-country trial.
Right.
30 countries, including India, have done these trials, and so some of the findings, you know, in bits and pieces, they have already been coming out. For example, for hydroxychloroquine, the trial had actually stopped that arm a while back, saying that it is not showing any benefits. But this is the final paper.
Right.
This is a preprint. This
Right.
is a non-peer-reviewed preprint paper that has now come, where it talks about 4 drugs: remdesivir, hydroxychloroquine, lopinavir, which is basically a second-line HIV drug, and interferon beta. And it has said that none of these 4 drugs have shown any efficacy in either reducing the period of hospitalization or reducing the need for ventilation or reducing mortality. So basically it's a negative on all counts as far as treatment is concerned.
Right.
And this is in line with a host of other studies on hydroxychloroquine, on remdesivir, many such trials. In fact, another very big trial, the recovery trial, their findings were published in the New England Journal of Medicine earlier this month on 8th October, which again came to the same conclusion that hydroxychloroquine is not effective in treating COVID. And recovery trial also, like Solidarity, had stopped the hydroxychloroquine arm prematurely because they said that, you know, the data that we have so far shows that it is not effective, and we find no reason to continue with this arm of the trial.
Right.
So this is the only thing that is new now, is that
it's on paper now.
It's on paper. This is a proper, the way a scientific journal reports, this is a paper that is now open for peer review. So yeah, that's the news.
So Abantika, you know, initially I remember in India, hydroxychloroquine was something that was being given to a lot of frontline workers, for instance, healthcare workers. What has been our stand over the last few months now that these revelations have been gradually coming up?
So we continue to give it as a prophylactic drug. We give it not just for frontline workers, we give it for family members of COVID positive patients who have probably been in touch with the patient, close proximity, before the person tested positive, so there was a high level of exposure. So we continue to use it, and healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, other staff, all of them, they continue to use it. And when the first studies started coming in, this was in May, when they showed that not only is hydroxychloroquine not effective as a prophylactic agent, but it also shows many adverse reactions. We had come out with a detailed document on this preventive thing. I have that document here, where we had listed out that yes, some of the healthcare workers who were, and this was the safety profile was based on 1323 healthcare workers, and they say that yeah, there were mild adverse effects, abdominal pain, vomiting, hypoglycemia, nausea, some cardiovascular effects, but overall it is safe to continue. though there are some contraindications, so it is not supposed to be used in pregnant or lactating mothers, in people who have an existing liver issue. All of those things are there. But overall, we are still continuing, and we are also continuing it's a part of our clinical management protocol, and we are saying that hydroxychloroquine this is an off-label use, which means that it's normally prescribed for rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and such other diseases. So our clinical management protocol says that, see, this is not proven. We don't have data to show that and in fact there is data in small trials which shows that there may be adverse events. So if you're going to administer it as a treatment, please take the family or the patient into confidence and explain that this is the situation, but I still think the patient will benefit, so please, if you're okay, we'll give it. So that's sort of you have to tell them before, so that they can
take a call and decide what they want. Right. So from what I understand, Gilead, which is which are manufacturers of remdesivir, have reacted quite strongly to these findings.
Yeah, that's right. So Gilead has actually questioned the very format of the trial design, and also the fact, like I mentioned, it's a preprint, so it's not peer reviewed. So what Gilead has said is that we are concerned that the data from this open label global trial have not undergone the rigorous review required to allow for constructive scientific discussion, particularly given the limitations of the trial. The emerging data appear inconsistent with more robust evidence from multiple randomized controlled studies published in peer reviewed journals.
Right.
So they are saying that this is not peer reviewed, and
that they don't accept the findings.
We don't accept the findings. That's their position.
All right. So let's start with these questions from our viewers. Vipin Jaws. Or will the trials help in debunking the claims of alternative medicine advocates in treating COVID-19, or is that even a factor at all in the trials? So there's no alternative medicine being studied?
No, not at all.
Right. Samarth Pandya, is favipiravir effective in treating mild to moderate COVID?
This is not a part of this trial.
This is another drug we've been hearing about a lot.
Yeah. But Solidarity trial has not given anything on that. There are studies which show that favipiravir may be effective. There are others that raise questions. So all of this, because it's scientific evidence takes a very long time to be generated, and then there are for ultimately a call is taken over a long period of time, looking at the evidence, weighing the negative and the positive. So right now there are negatives and positives, and we are yet far from a place where we can take a call on which one we should go with.
Right.
So it's an ongoing process, basically.
Right. Okay. Suresh Pai, what sort of credibility does WHO have at this point? Any reports on the usage of steroids to reduce the effect of virus? So let's take the first part. WHO created such a mess in the first place with COVID.
Right. However, this is a trial that is being done across the world in 30 countries, and there are principal investigators in every country. WHO, the organization, it's just the sort of the anchor for the trial. It's not doing the actual trial. The trial data is being generated by different people in different countries, and some of the authors in this paper are well respected people across the world. So it's not exactly WHO that has done the actual trial.
Right.
The why WHO comes into the picture is because it has the wherewithal to put something like this together. Otherwise, it is very difficult to do a trial across 30 countries at such short notice to get it started and do all of that. So that's why WHO came in. But to question the trial just because WHO anchored it,
doesn't mean it is not fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Dion, do you think it is because hydroxychloroquine can't make money and therefore doesn't work?
The evidence that I have doesn't take into account that part. Money is not a consideration here. All they are looking at is how patients
are react
to these, and remember, it's not just hydroxychloroquine. There's remdesivir. Remdesivir has powerful backers.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So that's why the Gilead response in the first place. That's a US multinational. Then lopinavir, interferon beta. So it's not just one drug that
has been debunked.
Yeah, 4 drugs. 4 drugs from different sources, different companies, different users. The prescribed usage is different. So, so again, that's.
Yeah, it's redundant whether it makes money or not. Okay, Karan Sandhu, one trial in the US suggested that HCQ works if given in double dosage.
Yeah, so there's evidence both ways, but till now the big trials have all returned a negative, and in fact in our clinical management protocol also we say that small trials have shown it works, big trials haven't, so it's your call, that sort of thing. So it's not just the size of the trial, it's also what trial is this, what kind of a trial is this. If it's so, for example, in this case, some patients were given the drug, some patients were given placebo. That's widely accepted as one of the better methods of examining whether a drug is effective or not. Because so in for example, a double-blind trial, nobody knows that the patient doesn't know what he's got. So to that extent, I think. It's not sort of it's not a
right. So Abantika, now that we've had these findings about these 4 drugs, particularly hydroxychloroquine and remdesivir, which everybody was talking about, what next? Like what, it's something that COVID is something that's still an unraveling story. So what line of treatment are we looking to follow in India with these revelations in hand?
As I mentioned in the beginning, these are not new revelations. The last time we revised our clinical management protocol was in July, by which time we knew the results of the recovery trial, we knew the results of the solidarity trial, yet we included hydroxychloroquine in that list. So it's not as if now that there is a preprint paper we will change it. It looks unlikely, because also remember, for hydroxychloroquine there was a big controversy which sort of raised a question about all studies, the Lancet paper that had to be retracted.
Right.
That was on hydroxychloroquine. So India's position, and I think part of the reason why we are persisting with hydroxychloroquine is that we have a long history of using hydroxychloroquine. Right. And because it's also used for malaria. It has less side effects than chloroquine is supposed to be a very toxic drug. Hydroxychloroquine was an improvement.
Diluted.
Was an improvement on that, so that's some of the toxic effects. So we in India have a very long history of using hydroxychloroquine, which is why despite these repeated references to adverse events and all of that, we have persisted with using it because we think that there is some benefit. That's what this paper also says, that as a prophylactic drug, there is a benefit. Though there are Indian studies also. There was one by a doctor in Max who looked at healthcare workers and the efficacy, and that study I can't recall where it was published, but that study also said that it does not prevent infection.
Right.
So I don't think this particular paper or the recovery paper is going to make us make any immediate changes to our clinical management protocol.
Right. So I'll take one last question. This is from Sunil Kumar Dora. Did ICMR issue any new guidelines? I'm assuming the viewer means has the ICMR issued any new guidelines post this paper, WHO Solidarity Trial paper?
No, this paper was from just this morning.
Right.
So so far there is no new guidance, and for a new guidance to come up, the National Task Force has to look into it. There's a whole process. That's a long thing. It cannot happen knee-jerk, because we will also have to look at the other evidences that So there is also one study that government officials refer to in Andhra Pradesh. It's not a published study, but they claim that the results were very positive. So all of that data will have to be taken into account, reviewed, discussed before we take a call either way. Yeah.
Right. So Abantika, I can't let you go without asking you about what India's COVID picture looks like now in terms of, is it looking any better?
So today we have the R value that's come in. It is I think it's the third successive week that it's below 1. Today it's 0.92, which means that one infected person is spreading the disease to less than one person. So that's a development, but the number of deaths today has again gone up. Last few days it was lower. Number of deaths has gone up. Though the positives are still, today it was 67,000 something. Positives are good, the testing numbers are good. What again is a persistent problem is that we don't know what tests we are doing, we don't know how many antigen, we don't know how many RT-PCR tests. So that is a problem in the entire country, except for some states which give that figure up front. For example, Kerala is very clear that we are doing just about 15% RT-PCR tests. Tamil Nadu is saying they're doing more than 90%, they have nothing to hide. So that is an issue. But the picture is, like they say, picture abhi baki hai.
Ji.
Because
Bilkul.
festivals.
And this is a virus nobody has been able to predict at all. So one really doesn't know.
So we are going to have like a host of festivals, lot of crowds.
Right. Okay.
We'll see what happens.
So time to be extra careful, as Abantika said, festival season, crowds, trying to mask up even more, wash your hands, as we constantly have been saying. Well, thank you, Abantika, who's leading our COVID coverage at The Print, for explaining the Solidarity trial and for telling us what India's stand on these drugs is. Thank you for watching Government Matters. For all your questions, enjoy your weekend.